How's it going, everyone? It's Artifact. Today we're going to make a Neurofunk lead completely blindfolded. Nah, not really. Let's take a listen to the loop. So this goes on top of the sub bass that I made in the last video. I thought, let's get a more interesting lead sound into this little project. The main thing I want to talk about today is firstly the creation of the sound design of the lead, and then how we can introduce a bit more of an evolving kind of narrative or story over the course of the lead loop, which I've played in. So if we have a little look at the Vital patch, and we're going to be introducing this kind of like movement and feeling in the loop, pretty much all just through the effects section in Vital. So if we just take off all of our effects first, and then we can hear the original lead. Now it sounds quite harsh and it's got a lot of high end in it, but it's this like filtering that we're going to be doing afterwards that's going to really, give it that kind of cool flavor. But if we just look in the Midi, what I've done here is I've just played a pattern which is kind of just going up from a D down to a D 1 octave lower, and just playing a few sort of grace notes on the way down. So this is we just have a little play of the Midi here. So it's kind of like we have this downward trend but it sort of comes up and peaks up a little bit. And that's quite a nice little way to sort of slowly make your way down, an octave. So yeah, it's quite a nice little pattern. So if we have a little look at the patch, the main oscillator one is the kind of, the main character sound. And yeah, it's this squish flange, and all we've done is, we've just mapped an envelope 2. So we just have two modulation settings: the envelope 2, which is the attack and the start of the sound, and then the LFO 2 is going to be this slow ramping up and down, which we're going to put to our effects at the end. So just for the start of the hit, this envelope 2, we just take the attack down and the sustain down, and then we just tweak the decay and the little curve, so we have just a nice little hit. And this is going to be this is going on to this wavetable. So it's if we listen when we take that sort of down, it just like by moving that part, we move the wavetable position, and it makes more of a down 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 rather than just a da 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 da. It's like down down down, which is much more interesting, isn't it? Obviously it still sounds terrible, so probably should end the tutorial. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go into oscillator 2, and we're going to frequency modulate in a sine wave. And obviously straight away it becomes a bit more interesting, by frequency modulation. Felt a little bit hollow still, like I was missing some harmonics, so I thought I'd try and throw a saw wave into the mix as well. It just kind of filled out a bit more of those gaps. And with these two guys here, we're sort of just tracking the level to the envelope as well. So they're sort of fading up. It's like it's like a bit of an attack at the beginning, because I've reversed the envelope. So the other way around would be. The other way around, we'd have this this kind of obvious like attack at the start, which could be cool, but I want to get that kind of that slow fading in kind of feeling, that wow 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 wow, rather than a don't. So that's why I did it that way around for these parts. And we simply have just unisoned a lot of these wavetables, and you can actually get this kind of wow wow sound from the sort of amount of unison that you're doing. So if I was to go and change the unison on this this sine wave, which is kind of responsible for the frequency modulation, if we sort of listen to what happens to the sound. Sort of tweaking that to get it just right so that I can get that sort of more pronounced won't. That's quite important. And yeah, that's basically this section wrapped up. I've just put on a little bit of a phaser filter. Just to sort of shape the sound a little bit and play with that kind of low mid-range area so we get a bit more expressiveness in that section. It becomes a little bit more defined, of a little more defined sound that moves up and down rather than just like an overload of frequencies that are all sort of flat. Let's go over to the effects and we'll see, you know, how we sort of transform it. So the main effects we're using are the delay, which is going to have some automation on it, the distortion, which is just to like bring up the volume of the sound, and then the filter is going to have a lot of movement and it's going to be a key character, and the phaser and the reverb are then also going to have some movement to them, and all of these are tracking to this LFO2 here. So we've got the filter, the phaser, the delay, and the reverb, and it's a very slow, if you can kind of see the speed that we're working at here. Not sure why there's two little rabbits running along there, but yeah, it's over the course of this sort of 4-bar loop. It goes up and then it comes down, and that creates that kind of yeah, that storyline or that evolving feeling into the lead, and especially the filter. If we take that off, you know, then we've got all those harsh frequencies, and by putting this low pass filter on, it just becomes a much more natural, nice kind of lead sound. You know, just sort of opens up and closes a little bit along this kind of line just by tracking the LFO to the cutoff here. And then what we've done to the delay is we kind of have this part where you can hear the delay more when it's in this low passed mode right at the beginning, and then as we come up to the top, we ease off on the delay and it becomes like dry, so it kind of just becomes a bit sharper, and as the frequencies come up, and it becomes a bit drier as well at this sort of halfway point, and that basically, yeah, just like increases the dynamic difference between, you know, the start of the loop and the midway point. So at the beginning we have like quite a lot of sort of delay on it, and also we have this reverb on it as well at the beginning. The filter is low passed, and then as we come up to the middle of the sound, you know, the filter opens up, so we get more of those harsh high frequencies for a little bit, and then the delay cuts off, so we've got like that kind of dry kind of part to the sound more without the delay and the reverb, and then it comes back down again. And just for a little bit of interest in the sound design as well, I've just tracked a phaser, and this actually turns on as we get to the top part. So where we've got this like harsh kind of dry part of the lead now, a bit of this phaser movement just helps to kind of just add a little bit of extra modulation so it doesn't get too like abrasive. Abrasive is a great word. This is going to be called the abrasive lead. So I'll throw this on my Patreon as well, on my Discord. If you guys ever want to join, you can get all my newest sounds as I make them. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a bit like upbeats kind of sound. I'm not really sure. I don't really like to specifically go out of my way to copy or emulate like someone else's sound. I just kind of like to open up the synth and just have fun and just see what I can create. So I appreciate all the requests that you guys send me in the comments of like, oh, can you make a sound like this? Can you make a sound like this? It's not really for me. I just try to always make something new. So yeah, it's quite a cool sound. So the main takeaways from this video are obviously like, if you have this kind of really overly harsh sound with a lot of harmonics, you can try doing something like this where you put a real low pass on it and you sort of open up and close up the kind of filter throughout the course of the loop, and then like by also playing with like the wetness, like with the reverb and the delay and the phaser, you can also create a bit more of a movement going on over the loop. And then we have like this nice evolving kind of lead loop with a bit of a sort of narrative and storyline, which sounds a lot more interesting than just having like something, you know, just repeating always or always dry, you know. So yeah, it's a bit of a compositional tutorial for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it and have a lovely weekend. Peace.